Thank you so much. It was a very interesting introduction, and I believe we are the last session, and we can see a lot of audience here. But maybe I just want to ask you if you can just get in people and maybe serve them coffee inside. That would be better, right? Because then it'll be because they're absolutely because what we are going to do here is, as you rightly said, is going to be magical. So I'm just trying to position our talk, okay? So guys, thank you so much for your patience, for waiting for such an esteemed panelist here, because this is really a kick-ass session where we will delve into what has happened in the last, couple of years. In fact, last year of marketing and what is happening in, the challenges that we have faced. And in fact, the outbound market has been always a growth point from the Indian perspective. We have seen that pre-pandemic and even post-pandemic, India has been a market which has been a market which comes back faster than any other outbound travel market for any other destination, outbound especially. So with that tag, I think we're going to just delve into this session and ask, and I'm sure you will learn so many great insights from the panelists that we have today, because they are the ones who are actually shaping the outbound travel and putting in strategies from D2C to from the tourism board perspective, from the payments perspective, and obviously the experiential travel, the priceless India that we are seeing that's growing like at an exponential rate. So to kickstart, I'll go to Mr. Sridhar. Considering Singapore tourism had been very aggressive on their plans, and you have implemented so many cool marketing strategies based on your experience on how the consumer has changed. Can you share insights on what Singapore Tourism Board has been able to do in the last 1 year and how it's been different for your complete, I would say, so many years in India? So, I mean, you have seen the changes post-COVID. How was the last year?
Thanks, Nitin. First of all, namaste, namaskar, vanakkam, and vandanam. And if you guys are wondering, did Daniel and Nitin get the memo that only bald guys are allowed on stage? They didn't get the memo. So bald is beautiful. Three of us, you're wondering, it's a Sesame Street game, right? Three of these things looks like the other. One doesn't look like the other, but
yeah, we're the odd one.
And we are reflecting light here. But Singapore tourism, when we look back at the year, and interestingly, it was a question about when post-COVID. I think a few things have changed, right? But a few things have remained consistent. Number one, what has remained consistent, Singapore tourism has always been looking at agile, bold, creative, impactful, and inclusive marketing in this country. And it has been stepping up on that front in many ways, because India is a very, very cluttered space. I was just before walking in, I was saying 10 years ago or 12 years ago, before I started on my first posting in India, at that point in time, there were already close to about 30 to 40 tourism organizations or representation companies in India. Today, I wouldn't be surprised in some form, shape, or the other, the number is close to about 70 or 100. Every country is knocking on the doors of India. Every destination is saying, we are the best destination, come visit us. So for us at Singapore Tourism, we have been in India for more than close to 3 decades now. We are among the first national tourism organizations. So it is very difficult for us to consistently talk to an audience who thinks they know Singapore, right? Indians know Singapore, but our challenge is we are letting them know that actually, you know what, some parts of Singapore you still do not know. So agile, bold, creative, impactful, inclusive. So inclusive is about, gone are the days where the National Tourism Organization was the information one-stop center, right? We say, this is Singapore, this is the Merlion, this is a bird park, this is a zoo, and then the Indian audiences or travel audiences across the world, they come. No more. So today it is about 3 C's. It is about cooperation. We cooperate with a lot of partners, travel trade partners, whom I call partner friends, because in India, the privilege of working in India is a lot of the travel trade partners are friends to us. So we cooperate with partners like travel partners, non-travel trade partners, whether it is a OTT platform or a movie studio, along that. So cooperation to bring out the message. Second is about community. It is no longer a national tourism organization putting on a clarion call and saying, this is Singapore, this is the country, come visit us and see that. No, we have to be in the communities. Is it about food? Is it about shopping? Is it about sightseeing? What are the communities? What are they talking about? How can we get involved in those communities? And finally, it is about conversations. We engender conversations, whether it is working with partners like a LBB or a Nika Land, or going and doing a partnership with MX Player or with Thomas Cook or SOTC. It is about getting into conversations that are happening about what is happening in the travel space, and how do we get into that space and talk about Singapore and say, okay, if you like food, come and have your char kway teow in Singapore. So I think that's about what, closing off, how is the numbers so far? I think 2023 has been good. India continues to be a very important source market. Pre-COVID, India was our third largest source market after China and Indonesia. Today, year to date, India is our fourth largest source market after China, Indonesia, and Malaysia. We will probably cross, or we will definitely cross the 1 million visitor mark from India to Singapore by the end of 2023. India continued to be a key tourism spend market for us. India was the third largest spend market for us in 2019. China, Indonesia, and India. Today, India is still the third largest tourism spend market. So in that sense, it is a very, very important source market, and we will continue cultivating this market.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that insight. And I think the keyword that you mentioned was partnership, because you had partnered across, for B2C, B2B, travel trade, media. And I think partnership is the key to move faster, because I think no one organization can do it themselves. So that's key insight, and I think that's the takeaway for the audience as well. Talking about Mastercard, Mukul, payment is a key factor in outbound, and Mastercard is one of the key players in credit card and debit cards. So how do you see, like, what are the marketing activities or probably tactics that Mastercard did to actually see the change that we have seen in the consumer behavior? Can you share some insights from Mastercard perspective?
Sure, thanks. Just to echo what Sridhar said, it's been very, very positive year from a travel perspective, right? Things have just absolutely come back. So what does Mastercard do, right? I mean, at the end of the day, today, we are the payment rail for the world, if you look at it. We have close to about 100 million acceptance locations across the world. So literally any country that you can go to, you'll be able to use a Mastercard. And what that really brings to us are 2-3 things, right? One is the ability to make payments without bothering to carry cash. And today payment technology has come to a point where you can use many ways to make a payment. You can use a watch, so wearables, you can scan a QR code, you can make a payment. You can tap your phone, make a payment. You don't need to take a card out of the wallet. You can tap your card, make a payment. So that's the technology part, and that's evolving. And what you see really from a technology perspective in India, you see that in the rest of the world also. In fact, India is probably way ahead of that. But because of just the sheer breadth of acceptance that we have, and the fact that we operate in close to 200 countries across the world, what we are able to bring to the table is a lot of data about customer behavior. So we become, in a way, the bellwether for the industry to understand how are people spending, where is the spend happening. Outbound travel from India, the spend in 2023 over 2022 has grown northwards of about 38-39%. And we still haven't crossed pre-COVID. I think we'll probably end up crossing pre-COVID this year, but the 38-39% is also based on the fact that it's a low base in 2022 because people were still coming out of COVID. But what we can do because of the breadth of acceptance is really create and curate different kind of offers to customers. We have something called Mastercard Travel Rewards, where we actually tie up with merchants across the world, and we bring benefits to customers where you can go swipe a Mastercard card at a participating merchant, and these are merchants across the world. They can be duty free, it can be Ralph Lauren, it can be Takashima in Singapore, for example, and you can just get a discount. And all that's required is for the card issuer to be able to communicate that to the customer. So we are able to bring data insights. We become the bellwether in telling you where people are spending. We can, because banks come to us, and banks and companies from the travel trade can come to us and tell us, listen, what have you seen in terms of change in behavior of the country as a whole? Because, what we see on our books is very similar and very reflective of what is happening actually in the country at large. So, those are the insights that we really bring onto the table, and we provide seamless payment experiences across the world.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that, Mukul. Coming on to Dan. Dan, SOTC has always been like a consumer-facing company. I've worked with SOTC. We just shared that story, and I used to work on the B2B side, which was never the SOTC game. It was very tough. But considering there's been a lot of change in the way we market to consumer, the Gen Zs and the XYZ, what has been your D2C strategy, and how you have made those connects with the consumer, and how it's impacted on the brand recognition?
I think, thanks. I think it's a very relevant question for the current situation, right? So incidentally, SOTC is going to be 75 years old next year, and I think it's been a tremendous journey for all of us. I think what we have seen, the customer pre-code and post-code is completely changed. I can tell you that, because you see, the journey for us post-COVID was we are a traditional tour operator who specialized in group tours and then do a little bit of FIT, did a little bit of domestic. But I think what changed for us was the older customers weren't traveling. So we had to really innovate. We had to really come out with something new. So suddenly we saw domestic went through the roof. I think it went through the roof for everyone. So we had to do those things. Staycations sold. Customers started, buying weekend trips, and all of that stuff happened. But right now, where we are, I think we're seeing the market coming back. So we have the regular customers traveling with us. But for SOTC or for Thomas Cook, for that matter, I think what we are trying to achieve today is our challenge is the customers, the behavior is completely changed. So customers, normally we would be happy if they take 2 to 3 trips a year, but nowadays they're taking over 6 to 7 trips a year. So that's a big change. How do we kind of, address that kind of a demand? I think that's the challenge, because we still brick and mortar, a little bit of digital and stuff like that. But interestingly, what we are seeing a huge change is, there are 2-3 things that are driving this change. One is a lot of event-based travel, right? So people are traveling for World Cricket, people are traveling to see even a T20 match abroad, they're traveling for F1, I'm talking about the FIT. So a lot of that is happening. There are a lot of people traveling for weddings, plus leisure. The business plus leisure, the business has really shot up. I think that's also significantly done well. We're also seeing experiential travel. When I say experiential travel, people traveling to see the cherry blossom in Japan, for example. I can tell you, we obviously cherry blossom in Japan happens during March and April. We already, I think, would have booked close to about 1,000 odd customers as we speak.
That's pretty cool.
And last year we did close to about 3,000 customers only in 2 months. So I think that's the kind of demand. People traveling to Iceland to see the Northern Lights. So those are new experiential travel which we never saw, before. And also experiences on cruising, experiences on very, very unique itineraries. Those are all taken off. But the traditional, when I look at, say, Europe, for example, is a large size of our business today. We do close to 1 lakh customers in a year. So people have started, cutting down on itineraries sometimes, because people who take 15-day trips are now taking a 12-day trip. They want to experience single countries or a couple of countries. They want to spend more time in these countries.
Right.
But I think the key driver still for the Indian consumer is food, deals. Those still continue to drive.
I think price and food are key.
Very, very important. So I think that's broadly how the market's changing, and a lot of influence of movies. For example, today the kid in India or the kid in the US watch the same movies on Netflix, right? So at the same time, which wasn't there in the past.
Sure.
So there are customers who actually walk in and say, I want to go to, for example, Emily in Paris. So that's influenced a lot of people to only do France as a destination. So we're seeing that kind of influential travel that's happening.
Perfect. I think you have given so many nuggets on, different segments, special interest tours. Earlier special interest tours was only mice, but now it's wedding. It's about chasing the cherry blossom or probably specific interest of people like bird watching or something. And I think that's pretty cool. But obviously that brings a lot of challenges, which we'll talk later in the session. But coming to you, Rohit, your company, Creative, and of course, talking about Away and Company, which is, we were like just having a laugh outside, that this always like, is, this morning you were a Creative and now you're Away and Company. But the fact is that Away and Company is in the experiential form of outbound travel. And, we just heard from, Sridhar that partnerships are key. So what do you think, like, how do you, as a company, have leveraged public-private partnerships with tourism boards who are public sector and the private sector within that destination to leverage and enhance the experience of outbound travel for your travelers? What has Away and Company been able to do on that?
So it's interesting. And for those who are confused, so Away and Company is very much a part of the Creative Travel family of brands. I think like any responsible travel company, we are a relationship and a partnership industry. We're nothing without relationships and partnerships. You will agree at any level, right?
Correct.
Away and Company is highly experiential. I think we were talking about this earlier. It's incredible. I didn't realize that SOTC is going to be 75 years next year. That's incredible. And we are, Away and Company is 2 years old as a brand. But I think it resonates a lot because for us at Away and Company, we rely a lot on partnerships, not just private and public partnerships, private to private partnerships. So as an example, Creative Travel, the family of brands, is a part of two of the top global luxury networks, Virtuoso and TravelerMate, that's Serendipians. So that in itself is a massive network that we automatically are a part of. We collaborate with tourism boards across the world. We collaborate with many different at many different times and phases in the process of a journey of a conversation. But I think what we specialize in as a company, what Away and Company does really, is highly experiential stuff. And what Dan was mentioning just now, the cherry blossom and the northern lights. Today, Indians have woken up. There seems to be somebody has, poked the sleeping dragon. And this dragon has suddenly woken up. Maybe wrong, dragon is not the right, because it's more Chinese. But somebody has poked a sleeping tiger. Tiger. Sorry, Sridhar, I didn't mean. Yeah. But and it's incredible because the appetite today Indians have for experiences it's unprecedented. It's not just about money. So our experience of the business is quite different because our customers are not traveling for food or price. Our customers will not want Indian food on a daily basis, or maybe not at all during the trip. Price is not their first criteria for choosing a trip. Some of our trips are 2 lakhs per person per night. And we did this trip to Rio Carnival in Brazil. It's incredible. It was sold out, and it's 1.5 lakh per person per night. By the way, without any airfare. This does not include air. None of our trips include air. So people are chasing today. Instagram today, social media has made it incredibly aspirational. Everything's aspirational today. Today, the fact that business class tickets to Europe are 4 lakhs, upwards of 4 lakhs on a good airline. So suddenly people have discovered that they have money to spend. And it's not about money. It's about the fact that people have realized that investing in a great experience is definitely worth it. And as Sridhar said, more than 100 NTOs in India, but even the ones that are not in India, because for whatever reason it's not part of their global strategy to have a physical presence over here, but they're all looking at the Indian market. And when you go to them and talk to them about the fact that there's the Indian traveler, they are so excited to talk about the Indian market, which makes us very proud, as a company.
Absolutely. I think, Indians are travel spend, Sridhar, you were mentioning that we are number 4 or number 3 as per the travel spend. And in fact, I think we are number 2 in the US as the highest spenders as travel after Chinese. So I think Indians are definitely, spending more. And, as Dan mentioned, and you mentioned that the appetite, for newer experiences, and of course the changes after the pandemic, that this is one life, I want to live large, and I want to invest my money traveling. I would just be dead if money will be lying in my coffin. So I think that mindset shift has really brought on all the Indian travelers to do this one thing, that is one life, I want to live this large.
Actually, I want to add quickly, because what my colleagues have, co-panelists have just said is actually reflected in customer behavior.
All right.
When we look at where people are spending money, it's completely changed to what it was pre-COVID. People are going alone.
Yeah.
So we are having many more people who are traveling alone, number one. Number two, experiential travel has become, I think, I don't have the number, but it's maybe become 4 or 5 times what it was pre-COVID.
Sure.
Experiential travel, spa, wellness, that kind of, and curated bespoke experiences have now become the norm. So travel habits have changed dramatically, and I'm happy to kind of see that whatever they're seeing actually happening is actually reflected in data.
The data, yeah.
Actually reflected in the data, yeah. Sorry.
Perfect. So, I mean, we spoke about general insight and, stuff. And of course, when you are seeing those changes in the market, obviously implementing those strategies would bring out challenges. So if, all of you can reflect on the last year, on the significant challenges that you faced, particularly keeping in mind that we have a large country, very diverse, culture nuances, competition, which is a very big thing, and you mentioned price and stuff. So what were the significant challenges? Maybe you can take it from here, and then we go from here.
So as a business, I think the challenges we've had, there's a lot of confusion over TCS. Okay,
Compliance.
TCS, no, not compliance. From a consumer point of view, there's the TCS rollout was not the best. And secondly, over the last, now it's improved, but last year was massive challenges on visas, especially to the key, most popular destinations. So I think, but fortunately we've overcome the visa challenge for now. TCS remains a concern, and I don't know if this is going to deter people from traveling overseas. Probably won't, but I think it will have some impact on how people are spending. So a lot of people will probably want to book direct. And that's why I was talking to Mukul earlier about has spend gone up since
the TCS
been rolled out. So these are the primary challenges. Look, the challenges of our industry will always remain challenges. And I think that's what keeps us going, really, as companies and industry, right?
I think we mastered the process of overcoming all of these challenges, because I think we are the first one to be hit, the last one to kickstart. So I think we have been pretty resilient and masters of this game.
We keep joking about it. We in fact include a contingency fund in part of our cost sheets these days, because anything happens, right? I mean, if you look at last 4-5 years, it was first the Jet Airways shut down, which completely created mayhem in our business. Then it was COVID, and now we have the war. So I think we need to be resilient and ready for what's going to come and hit us. But from a more operational standpoint, I think for the category, I think there's a huge supply side challenge, because although we have inventory available, there are no people to service hotels in different countries like Australia, even Singapore. They have people issues. People is a big problem.
Yes.
Not only from the supply side, but also from the selling side or operating side. Because a lot of people have left the business. I think somebody asked that question earlier as well. So I think that's a big issue. I think the second issue is visas. I know he's confident that it's solved, but I can tell you we're still staring at a tough year next year as we speak. There are, I agree with him, few countries have kind of, like the UK is more or less sorted, Switzerland is sorted more or less. But I think the other countries are still yet to come to terms, and in fact it's gone to an extent that today customers walk into our offices or call us and first ask us, where can I get a visa, and then decide where to go, which has never happened in the last 20 years that I've been there. So I think, so those are challenges that we continue to face. And, as an industry, we must understand that, at least for tour operators or travel operators like us, we are in the commission business, right? So we don't own hotels, or we don't own coaches and stuff. So we operate on a very thin margin. So I think it's very important for us to, at least at the organization I work for, we've done huge cost transformation exercises, look at how we can, reduce our cost of acquisition. So I think those are things that companies need to look at, especially in the category, because that's when you're preparing yourself for the next eventuality that can happen. I mean, you don't know what it is, but I think you need to be prepared, and obviously those who are prepared will win better. So I think that's what continuously we are trying to evolve, improve tech, improve how we can reach customers in a more efficient manner, look at processes in the organization. I think if we are ready for that, I think we'll get somewhere. But if those who are not prepared, I think they'll have a bigger problem.
Sure.
I think we are kind of looking at two fundamental challenges. One is actually a good challenge. And the good challenge is the fact that customer behavior has changed dramatically.
Right.
So from our perspective and from the banks who issue MasterCard products is about how do we continue to keep our products relevant to customers, especially from a travel perspective. Because what worked pre-COVID doesn't necessarily work now. Right?
Sure.
That's one thing. The other challenge is going to be a little different from what we've been talking about, is that so much has gone digital that the challenge is around how do we build the right technology from a fraud and cybercrime perspective.
Right.
So that's really a challenge that all banks are facing. And because travel is kind of literally the first port of call for online, right? Because it's become so, you don't think of calling a travel agent to book a ticket as a consumer now. You just go online and book a ticket on whichever online travel agency that you see, right? And that's led to a lot of proliferation of fraud. And therefore, for us, it is all about protecting the consumer from fraud. So what do we do? What are the kind of fraud and security products that we are able to innovate on that's actually providing safety to the consumer? So, it's a little different from the travel side, but these are the challenges that we are looking at.
Pretty significant.
It is very significant.
Yeah.
It is very significant.
Okay. I think from a national tourism organization perspective, so not just focusing on challenges because it's against my grain of thinking. So I'm a pragmatic optimist. So I'll interweave both challenges and opportunities. I think first for us is competition. As I already stated, more than close, I mean, the exact number I'm not sure, but it is going to be close to 70 to 100 NTOs or representations here. So competition is intense, right? But the good thing about that is also Singapore continues to be a perennial favorite. We have established not even decades, it's centuries of closeness between India and Singapore, right? We have political, socio-economic, tourist ties way behind, way back in our history. So the opportunity in there is Singapore will continue to be a very popular destination. Our challenge, therefore, is how do we, in spite of the competition, get and carve out our pie, right? And the good thing about that is also the overall trajectory for India is very positive. Today, India is the 5th largest economy. The median age is about 27.
28.
Yeah, 27, 28.
Yeah.
It's a young country, so there's a lot of opportunities in that. So despite competition, there's a lot of opportunities for it. The second thing is about the confident, discerning Indian. The Indian traveler today is a very evolved lady or gentleman. So I can say with a bit of conviction, having been in the market since about 2010, what has changed? One of the things that have changed is the Indian consumer today, the Indian traveler today is a lot more confident.
Yeah.
I mean, to put it a bit more in a tongue-in-cheek manner, say maybe 12, 13 years ago, an Indian traveler will probably go somewhere and say, I'm from India, can you do something for me?
Yeah.
Today it is, I'm from India, what can you do for me? Right? And that's a huge change. So a confident, discerning, and a young Indian as well, who's digitally savvy, very, very plugged into the world because of connection to the world. How do you cater to that gentleman or that lady and say, you know what, there are experiences that you can have in Singapore that's going to be pretty phenomenal, please come. Because he's got a lot of things to go for him. So confident, discerning Indian, number 2. Third, cost. I think every consumer on planet Earth is a very price-sensitive consumer. But this concept of paisa vasool is a very, very interesting concept, right? Where the Indian consumer is not cheap. He will pay for the value, as what Rohit has said.
Yeah.
He will pay for that value if it is indeed worth that 1 lakh. But to convince him that is 1 lakh, cost sensitivity, value sensitivity is very high. And in this marketplace today where you've got 100 vendors to which that 1 Indian rupee or 10 rupees is going to go to, he has got a lot of choices to make. So I think in this kind of environment, the good thing, so that's a challenge. The opportunity for us, Singapore, is, again, our brand affinity is solid. The Indian consumer today, years ago, first passport, Singapore, maybe it is not the case anymore, but still, first passport, aspirational destination, within the next 3 to 5 years, Singapore is in that league still. And I think that's a huge plus point for us. So, yeah.
You know, you spoke about discerning Indian traveler and then you spoke about price, but there is another segment which is called Priceless India. They don't care about price, they care about experiential travel. You know, so what are your organizations doing to cater to that growing segment? You know, maybe if you can put that to perspective, because you're focusing on experiential travel, you have that customer. What are the organization doing to actually cater to that segment which is growing faster than anything else? Yeah, we just have last question.
So God has not made that Indian who doesn't care about price. It doesn't exist. But people are, so priceless is interesting. People are willing to pay more for something that they would put a lower value to earlier. But as Sridhar said, we never say Indians are price sensitive. We say they're price aware. It's value. If they know they're getting something for 10, it's what 10. If it's 100, it's 100.
Sure.
So having said that, I think it's an outcome of economic progress, a factor of a lot of disposable income, and a factor of people having realized that it is time now to jump out and do something different.
Dan?
I think I'll just extend what Rohit said. Very interestingly, when I term priceless is today's consumers, obviously, whatever they've said stands true, but I think he's ready to cut that check. I think that's a big difference that we see post-COVID. He's not thinking twice to spend on that holiday, which is a clear indication why more trips are happening, why more experiential travel is happening, and why people are buying expensive holidays. I think that's what it is.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Priceless, because we actually have a property called Priceless, right? So we have about 40 countries across the world where we offer priceless cities. And it's essentially bespoke, curated travel packages where n is equal to 1. So you can log on to the Priceless website that MasterCard runs, and as long as you're a MasterCard card customer, you can book a package in 40 countries across the world. We recently launched Priceless in India, actually, also, though this is about outbound. But about 2 months back, in partnership with the Ministry of Tourism and Invest India, we actually launched Priceless India. And the kind of packages you can see there are, you can go to an ashram in Rishikesh and do a darshan, or you can, go face to face with royalty at Jodhpur, and so on and so forth. So Priceless absolutely is a very, very important part, and it talks to how consumers are changing and the fact that they're always looking for more.
So I see the lady in pink is waiting. So the guy in red will keep it very short and sharp. Priceless is very simple. I mean, I think given the current context, COVID changed the world. The current wars that are going around the world is changing the perspective even further. I think today a consumer in India is thinking, if it is a priceless experience I want for myself, for my family, for my loved ones, I will go for it. Price is no matter, because it is now here. I want to enjoy life.
Right.
And I want to make sure that I'm having the best ball of a time. So I think in that context, for Singapore is a similar, where there are opportunities. I mean, priceless is actually no value, right? So it can be, for somebody it is $100, for somebody else 100,000, right?
Absolutely.
So as long as there's an opportunity for them to enjoy and have a priceless moment with their loved ones, I think there are a lot of such opportunities and experiences waiting in Singapore, made in Singapore. And I welcome all of you there. Thank you.
Well, guys, thank you so much. We have come to an insightful session, and I think we see there are challenges, but there are so many opportunities in Outbound India, which have been reflected, and I think that is going to pave the way of the future. So thank you so much for being patient and, you know.